Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We've got Mike Dunn in the house. He's the president and CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure.
You guys don't stop. You're always coming up with stuff, and I know you do a lot of the high-minded thinking for this city. I don't mean to say that in a mocking way.
Right, no.
But you're coming off this incredible success with something that seems really simple, a skating rink.
Yeah, right. It's the little things that can make a community different. And so the Greater Salisbury Committee, as many people know, we serve as a catalyst to make things better in the community. And if there are challenges and problems, in theory, bring them to the Greater Salisbury Committee. And we ought to be able to come up with some sort of solutions and answers to help the process along. And we've done some great big things in our time, but there's nothing to say that an ice rink in the city park over the holiday weekend isn't a big thing. And so the Greater Salisbury Committee Foundation donated money. Sandy Fitzgerald Angelo, Pohanka, who does so many things for this community, she wrote a check to be able to rent that ice rink. The city of Salisbury helped to build this massive Christmas tree, which was purchased by Wyatt's Warriors Foundation, which was the benefactor of everything. And for, one brief shining moment, if you will, in the city park, you had a Norman Rockwell moment that I think certainly took my breath away, and it was a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, with the thing lit up at night, with all the people there, it was crowded.
Yeah.
And people were having fun.
They were. On the Winter Wonderland of Lights, Salisbury Winter Wonderland, when those lights went on after the performance on the stage, the ice rink and people there to watch the trees, there were 1,000 people in the city park. And much like so many of our community activities like that, there was no incident. Everybody gathered peacefully. It was a wonderful celebration. The Salisbury Christmas Parade was just held. Fantastic crowds, people gathered. So just, another little thing. But an ice rink was an idea that came to my brain, and I'm going, hey, well, let's bring an ice rink down to the city park, and off we went.
And it was a simple thing.
Simple thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, little, I'm pretty consistent about if you have an idea in this community, bring it forward. From Ben's Red Swings to an ice rink in the park, and so many hundreds, a Salisbury Marathon, a National Folk Festival, Laura Bottinelli at the Ward Museum put that idea in then City Council President Jake Day's ear, I think 3-4 years or so ago, and now here we are. So, I just tell anybody that's listening anywhere I get, if you've got an idea, bring it forward, and there's probably going to be some way to make that idea happen for the community.
Well, it's so frustrating for me, as you know, being from the farm. Every idea that comes up, I'm like, that's not going to work.
Right.
And then it always does.
It does. And I always say to you, you can have a cynical mind now and then, that ideas work. It really is. And every idea that succeeds kind of proves that. The Governor's Challenge basketball tournament is about to happen. It's the largest basketball tournament in the United States of America. And it started with an idea that Butch Waller and the Salisbury Lions Club brewed up and hatched up many, many years ago, and all these years later, here's what it is. So, things can happen.
Yeah, so many people don't even know about it. In fact, I've got a letter going this week from the county executive who writes, do you people realize what a cool thing we have going on here?
It is.
And we really do.
And sometimes you just, it's important when these cool things arrive that we support them.
Right, that's the key.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
The hard work of the county executive, the hard work of Rec and Parks, the hard work of a community icon like Butch Waller. And, in those days after Christmas and before New Year's, head out to the Civic Center, head out to the tournament. You're going to see some outstanding basketball talent, both boys and girls, and why not? What else do you have to do?
Right. I've watched the mayor on this marathon thing that's coming up next April, and it was interesting in the beginning. It was just like, well, yeah, let's try it, and then they realized how hard it was going to be, and now it's like, well, now we have to do it.
Yeah, it's.
And it was that way with you with the fireworks. You probably thought it'd be a simple thing when you brought back the fireworks to Salisbury.
Sure.
Probably didn't think that 5,000 people would show up the first year.
Right. Logistics. If you do your logistics right, and the Salisbury Marathon is working in coordination with Wicomico County, the city of Salisbury, because the runners are going to be running in and out of city and county lines and state roads and county roads, and it's going to be a heavy lift. But that's what makes it exciting, and I know the right people are in place to help make that happen and help make the National Folk Festival happen. So it's, again, I have the pleasure virtually every time I'm on this show with you to say good things are happening and good things continue to happen.
I was so impressed during the anniversary time in the fall. Couldn't figure out how we were going to really salute our anniversary of our county, 150 years.
Yeah, 150.
And you all had the idea to uplight the courthouse, which sounds simple, but it was probably complicated.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It, again, public-private partnership. I had an idea, continuing theme here, took the idea and presented it to County Executive Culver. I knew we could raise the $30,000 necessary. The Greater Salisbury Committee put its money where its mouth was. We made the first contribution, and you go and you hire the best person, and Brian LeCompte and Yard Designs.
Right.
Public-private partnership. So you had county employees out there just as dedicated and working as hard as they could, as was Brian LeCompte of Yard Designs. And so, that really is the model. Whether it's Bob Culver or Jake Day, you've got city and county people that are as dedicated to making things happen. And so now we have a courthouse that's uplit, and you see it all the time. Your office is right across the street, and it's beautiful. It is. So we were proud to be able to lead that effort. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in a way simpler, and it's much more attractive. I've never thought the courthouse was that pretty.
Yeah.
But it's really growing on me. I do believe it's certainly the most important building in town.
It is, and the second most important building in town, I think, is Wicomico Middle School. You went there.
Right.
I went there. It was built it was a WPA project, I think, of the New Deal.
Franklin Roosevelt was actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous building that sits there in the dark. So I got another idea brewing in my head. Right there in the city park, there's this hole of darkness behind which sits this historic building.
They used to put candles in the windows at Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do.
I don't know, but I just think the whole thing, these uplighting projects are not that expensive, and sometimes you got to throw some lights on some of our historic buildings and go, oh, okay, look at that. Looks nice.
Government office building is dark on that one wall,
Yeah.
and it should be lit somehow.
Little things.
Little things.
Yeah.
You're coming off success from last winter. You had a political bipartisanship meeting downtown. It was tremendously successful. We talked about that last time. And you've had some things that have extended from that. One is the wind projects at the beach, where Salisbury can be involved in the construction. What's going on with all that?
It's pretty dicey at the moment, but as you know, the Maryland Public Service Commission said yes to offshore wind sometime this past summer. And so two developers, a company called U.S. Wind and then a company called Deepwater Wind, they have the rights off the coast of Ocean City. And we think, as did the Public Service Commission, that there are many, many job opportunities here. 9,000 Maryland jobs are required. Both companies have already invested $10 million into all the work that they've done so far. And there have been a few kinks. Congressman Andy Harris has introduced a bill that would limit how close the turbines could be from the coast of Ocean City. He would limit that by saying that there could be no federal permitting for any offshore turbine that's closer than 24 miles. And as we know, the town of Ocean City has hired a lobbyist, a well-known lobbyist, and they might be going down...
The biggest one of all, Bruce Bariano.
Bruce Bariano.
Yeah.
So, they have some absolutely legitimate concerns about whether these turbines offshore will reduce the number of tourists, reduce the number of hotel rooms, reduce the number of people who come to Ocean
Just
City.
from an eye pollution point of view.
Exactly. They simply believe that if you can see them, people might make other travel plans and decide not to come to Ocean City. So there's a little bit of a dance going on. The optics of what the developers presented at 12 miles caused Ocean City Mayor Rick Meehan to kind of, this gives me pause. So we are the Greater Salisbury Committee is part of an alliance called the Lower Shore Wind. Matt Drew, Katarina Enerfelt, Dave Ryan, myself, Bill Chambers at the Chamber. So we're in constant discussions with the developers. They are in constant discussions with the folks in Ocean City, and we know as Greater Salisbury Committee and Lower Shore Wind and the Chamber that we can't go into Ocean City and kind of say, hey, we think you need to adopt this and embrace it. So we're walking the dance a little bit, but we remain hopeful that these offshore turbines will come.
Yeah, the potential for jobs in Salisbury, where things have to be staged and manufactured, are significant.
They are. We just met an hour ago, Mayor Jake Day, Dave Ryan, myself, and Bill Chambers, and Senator Mathias with Senator Chris Van Hollen. And that's exactly what he was asking. He was talking about what jobs might be here. And so we were talking about some potentials at an expanded Salisbury port. We were talking about jobs at welding jobs. We've got shipbuilding jobs. In Ocean City, there will have to be a maintenance facility, likely built in West Ocean City. So, we're just advocating for, again, what the Maryland Public Service Commission, after a lengthy process that was 3 to 5 years, said, okay, let's bring it. So we're going, okay, well, that's what the ruling is, so let's bring it. But again, the town of Ocean City is raising some white flags, and understandably so. So we'll see if we can't get through that.
We're about to have an election year, and I know you all don't really get involved in who the candidates are, but you might have to structure some issues a little bit, and it'll be a chance for all of us to talk about our county, I guess, and what the county chooses to spend its money on. Any thoughts about where that might be headed?
Well, we are advocating, again, for the airport. We have in the new Salisbury airport manager, Dawn Veach, a great hire with enormous experience. She was in charge of the FAA for the entire Western Hemisphere. Fair to say she knows a little bit or two about planes and airports.
Such a can-do-it person.
Oh, she is. I'm starting to say she is to the Salisbury Airport what Jake Day is to the city of Salisbury. So she's got some plans. We're about to enter into trying to find some private matching grants for a federal grant that Wicomico County and the airport are looking into that could bring additional carriers here. Lower fares, a couple of high-name carriers, perhaps some increased routes that Piedmont and American Airlines might bring. So when we look at county spending, whether it's County Executive Culver or his opponent, we're advocating for forward funding. We're advocating for get that 8,000 foot runway extension. That would be the finished length of it. Let's forward fund that. So we think that.
And that could be done with bonding.
It can, or it can be done by reaching into some of the county savings accounts. And again, the FAA, it's forward funding, so we would get paid back. So, Dawn Veach has some great ideas. So we're kind of following her and seeing where we can help some of her visions happen for the community.
Yeah, lots of great opportunities there. And not just with the airline that's here now, but all the industrial park stuff around it.
Water is coming. They haven't had water there, so that's happening. Dawn has some ideas about getting some cargo carriers. She's got some ideas regarding FEMA and making the Salisbury Airport sort of a, we are on an island here on the Delmarva Peninsula, and God forbid one of those horrible natural disasters that have hit Texas and Puerto Rico and Florida. If one of them should hit Delmarva, the Salisbury Airport is a logical place from which to launch emergency operations. And so Dawn is doing some things with FEMA regarding that. So, again, she'll be around for 5 or 6 years, and if we're smart, we'll follow her expertise, and we'll have a better airport, a more vibrant economic engine in that airport than perhaps we do now. Yeah.
She's trying to lure a pilot training school.
Pilot training. She's trying to lure
drone project.
Drone projects. She's trying to lure a few private companies that, as example, if you're NetJets, you can go to the Teterboro Airport and pay $22,000 a night to store your jet. Or perhaps if there's a hangar down here in Salisbury, you can pull in at a fraction of that cost.
Right.
And Teterboro, Dawn tells me, is about a 20-minute flight for some of these high-end jets. So, Dawn, again, with her connection, she's out there, trying to make some things happen. And, we would be silly not to support her efforts.
I was talking to the county executive the other week, and I was surprised. He brought up the idea of the revenue cap, which we've had now for 17 years.
Yeah.
Most of us don't remember why we have it. And he wanted to talk about it a little bit.
That's fantastic. We're talking about it.
So what would be the idea for changing how things are with that revenue cap?
Well, as you know, the Greater Salisbury Committee, we have a revenue cap committee, and thanks to the help of Memo Derricker and his folks at Beacon at Salisbury University, we're studying the revenue cap, and we anticipate having that available to the public the first part of 2018. So the revenue cap was a reaction to a really stupid, I don't know what, a boneheaded, knuckleheaded...
A tax increase. It was driven by a salary commission study that said that the county employees all deserve big raises.
And so a 46-cent tax increase went into place, which is 23%. And then 2 weeks later, property tax, real estate transfer tax was put into place.
5%, yes.
So everybody sort of freaked out a little bit, and we got a revenue cap, and it's been the law of the land for 17 years. The only thing we're trying to do is to educate and ask the question 17 years later, does anybody really know what a revenue cap is?
Right.
We're going to explain what it is. We're going to explain how we got to this point, and we're going to kind of make some recommendations that the revenue cap kind of puts some limitations on us. And we've had conversations with the county executive, with John Cannon, the president of the county council, with Mayor Day, and I don't know many people in those positions who like having the revenue cap. So maybe there's some options out there, but again, all we're doing really as the Greater Salisbury Committee, we're going to look at it. We think that's an appropriate thing to do, and we'll leave the political decisions to the political decision makers. I don't wish to speak for John Cannon or Bob Culver or anybody like that, but he's talking about it, and we think that's a good thing.
We've had some strange economic conditions since then. We had incredible growth, so there were developer fees that helped pay for a lot of that growth. That's been taken away.
Yeah.
Then we had the recession where actually the revenue cap worked in the reverse situation.
Tax rates went down in order to,
yes. So there you didn't need to increase taxes.
I'm of the belief there are not 10 people in Wycomico County who could explain the revenue cap.
Right.
I included myself in that until about 3 weeks ago when Wayne Strasburg finally sat me down, and it's complicated.
Right, and I've always been embarrassed by that because I was the editor of the paper, and I killed myself to explain to everyone what the revenue cap was. And even still, people just thought it was a tax cap. They didn't realize it was a revenue cap.
That's right. It's not our...
So the revenue can only grow by 2.5%.
You cannot exceed 2% revenue growth in any year. Not tax rate, revenue. So, I look at it and I finally figured it out. If somebody gets a $20,000 raise this year, I'm talking a family, by virtue of hard work, each spouse earns $20,000 more in total. Well, they can't only spend 2% of that $20,000. So in effect, they would be handing $19,800 back to their employer who gave them a raise.
Right.
So that new revenue, they're not allowed to access. that seems a little
Right.
interesting to say the least. That's the revenue cap.
And I shouldn't speak for the county executive. He's a very conservative guy.
Yes, yes, he is.
I'm sure at the time he was very much in favor of the revenue cap. As
It
as
passed
private citizen.
overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
But now he goes to New York and deals with the guys on Wall Street about bonding and what the county is able to do, and they look at all of our abilities to counteract any kind of problem, and the fact that we can't raise taxes in an emergency or some kind of situation really troubles them, and they kind of belittle us for having a situation like that.
So we're going to point that out in the revenue cap. That's all. It's things like that. It's not, again, the revenue cap passed overwhelmingly with about 68% of the vote. So it's not up for me or anybody to say that those people voted the wrong way or the right way. But I do think it's the responsible thing to do, to re-educate and reintroduce what the revenue cap is for.
Right.
One of the things we've learned in looking at this is that, under a certain age, if you're 40 years, 42, 44, 45 years old, you were a senior in high school or you were not paying attention, and now you're raising a family here in Wicomico County. And a lot of those people don't even know that we have a revenue cap, much less what is a revenue cap. So we're going to try to educate, that's all. And then it will be what it will be. And again, the elected officials will get the opportunity to figure out what they may or may not want to do with the new information, that's all.
Yeah, that was an interesting time, because I remember I voted for the cap, but I also voted for the excise tax, thinking that that form of taxation would make up for the revenue problem, and everything would be fine. But then the excise tax didn't pass.
Didn't pass. So you had a period in Wicomico County of, 2 to 4 years where the word tax, excise tax, revenue caps, I think it just confused a lot of people. And so again, one of the things we want to do is sort of reset the table in 2018 and say, hey, look, is this the appropriate vehicle for Wicomico County in 2018? Maybe it is.
Right.
It's not up for you or me to decide, but I think the Greater Salisbury Committee, again, looking at our responsibility, we think it's a good thing to kind of educate the public again on this revenue cap thing.
Right, and the closest here, I guess, Talbot County has a tax cap.
Right.
But no one else has anything similar.
Nobody else in the state of Maryland has this.
Yeah,
so
we came up with an interesting thing. You had some great success this summer, something I was involved in, this Leaders program.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It went fantastically, thank you. Thank you for your, it was the Transformational Community Leadership Series, and when we knew that we needed a facilitator who would know about all of the things in the county that we were introducing this cohort of about 50 next generation leaders to, we chose you.
Well,
it was.
I probably know too much, but
You did a great job. It was a huge success. We took this next generation of Wicomico County leaders and we took them to the water treatment facility on Naylor Mill Road. We took them to our schools. We took them to our airport. We took them to our detention center. And they really got a great deal of knowledge about the infrastructure and the institutions. And we took them to Salisbury University and toured some of their new facilities. It was a huge success, and giving everybody credit. Our partner was Salisbury University and you and Greater Salisbury Committee. It was an idea that one of those next gen people, Chris Eccleston, came up with, and we made it happen, and it was a big success. So we'll see if we do it again.
Yeah, it's I feel like I know everything, and I didn't know everything. And the thing that still gets me is something simple: the people that run the water plant. Every year they're contenders for having the best water in Maryland.
Yeah.
And when we were there, you could feel the pressure that they put on themselves to repeat as.
Yeah, and the pride they had in being that good.
Yeah, the teamwork and just the whole thing about making sure that the right ingredients go in the water at the right time.
And the thing that was fascinating to me as much as anything is that I think what we introduced the TCL group to, we heard, as you know, on more than one occasion that, wow, I wish some of our local elected officials would come and do the same thing that you're doing.
Right.
So, that was sort of eye-opening for me, is that if we could take this group of unelected, just community-minded people to these facilities, you ask yourself, well, why haven't all of our elected officials been out there to do the same thing? So, that was eye-opening.
Right. You guys have done a lot of work with Wallops.
Yes.
What's going on down at Wallops?
Wallops is continuing to grow. Again, having the timeliness of this, we're trying to coordinate in 2018, getting Senator Van Hollen, Senator Ben Cardin, Maryland Governor Hogan there with their Virginia counterparts. Wallops continues to be, they had their successful flight a few weeks ago, the Antares rocket that resupplies the International Space Station. It continues to be a valuable employer for the lower shore. 1,200 of the people who go to work on Wallops every day, 600 of them live in Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset County.
I'm becoming more aware of that, of the people who are around me who
Yeah.
do work at Wallops.
And those are high-paying jobs that should they ever leave, they're not going to be replaced. So it's our job as the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development folks in Greater Salisbury and our delegation to keep the noise going down at Wallops. They're doing good things. It's a very versatile place. The U.S. Navy is there. NOAA is there. The Air Force was there recently, as well as all the NASA stuff and some private partners. And they've just built a brand new drone runway out there, so they're trying to attract some cutting-edge drone operations.
Kind of hidden back there in the woods.
Hidden back there, but it's a state-of-the-art runway. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, then Virginia Governor, well, he still is, but he can't seek a second term. And we now have an Eastern Shore of Virginia governor-to-be in Virginia, in Governor-elect Northam. And so we're going to try to get some people down there and raise some NASA Wallops noise a little bit.
Yeah, I think about the community, and this is a really bad example, but I was watching Fast Times at Ridgemont High the other night.
And who wouldn't watch that?
And you and I went to high school together. Of
Yeah.
course, you're much older than I am.
Oh, of course.
But there was a scene there in the gym, and they're having like a pep rally, and the cheerleaders are trying to get everyone excited, and no one has any interest in what's going on. They're like, in the crowd. And one of the cheerleaders sort of a breakdown. It's like, we're up here trying really hard to make our school better and all that. I was like, that's an example of what I kind of see in the community sometimes, is there's these people who are trying so hard to make things better, and there are people who are just like sit on their butt and they don't want to try, they don't want to help. Do you ever sense that?
I remember the scene very well. I
And
actually,
in high school, you were the guy on the floor. Like,
I
let's
was-
make
well, I
things
was-
better, and
yeah,
I
I
was the
was
guy
like,
like,
whatever.
in the stand.
Look, I take it as the way I kind of look at that is I'm grateful that we have good people that are trying to make a difference. Donna Hanlon and Jake Day and Dawn Veach and Bob Culver and John Cannon and Bill Chambers and on and you. And I think the community responds. And how do they respond? Throw an ice rink in the city park and invite them. And there they are. So I don't spend too much. I get that scene. I get it, but and parts of that are true. But I think in any community, I don't think we're any different. In any community, you've got people that bring ideas forward and who try to continue to churn. I always quote late Salisbury Mayor Paul Martin: "Communities either grow or they die." And so that's something that is constantly in my brain, and I think in a lot of people's brains around here. We gotta keep, if there's a ball that needs to be moved forward, then let's get behind that ball and move it forward. So
I was just talking to my son, who's in school out in Arizona,
Yeah.
and he was talking to his friends out there. And out there where he is, they're mostly from California or Arizona or New Mexico, Colorado. And just the West is different.
Yes.
And he was talking about some of the traditions here, like, they used to have to go sing in the park, and they lit the stuff, and they'd walk over and look at the boat parade. And he was just sort of saying, like, nonchalantly, and they were like, really?
Yeah.
That sounds like so much
Yeah.
fun. You're so lucky to be where you're from. And you don't even realize that.
on the night that the ice rink and the lights were lit in the city park was the boat parade. So those things all were well attended. So again, I think we're well positioned. We put great things in front of the community, and the community responds. That's all you can ask.
How long have you been in this job?
Not quite 2 years.
Are you having fun?
Oh, I'm having a blast. Can you tell? Yes, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm grateful for the members of the Greater Salisbury Committee that allow them and their trust and their capacity to care in the community, and I get the opportunity to go out here and be part of that. And so, yeah, it's fun.
As someone who's watched it for years, I shouldn't be surprised, but I think it's a talent that you have. that people are amenable to doing what you suggest, rather than go like my old way. That's not going to work.
There's I can't speak to your old way. There's an energy out there, and again, if you've got a good idea, there's an opportunity for that idea to happen.
All right, you've opened yourself up. Will you receive ideas from the public?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Can we get people to call you?
Oh, I say that, and that's what I tell our GSC membership too. Look, I met with a new GSC member last week, and I said, look, if you ever have an initiative and you want it brought forward, that's part of our goal. On our wall, it says we sit at an intersection of people and ideas and resources. So absolutely, if somebody has a community-based idea, bring it forward. We'll see what we can do with it.
I gave Mike a dumb idea last week.
I love the idea.
That I want to do, and we'll see.
I love the idea.
We'll see if it works.
Absolutely.
If it gets any traction.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I love it. It's Americana. Am I allowed to say it, or you want me to?
If you want, yeah. I don't want to brag about it.
Greg has this great idea. I don't think it is dumb idea. The old, was it Pinewood Derbies? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, well, no.
In Boy Scout world.
Yeah.
But right in front of Y Middle is that great downhill East Main Street Drive. Yeah. And perhaps we could put some sort of derby together.
Soapbox derby.
Soapbox derby, that's what it is. The soapbox derby. Get some cool cars, get some people creative. Maybe we have a little fun and get those cars going down that hill. I like the idea. You sent some photographs from the old days, and
just close one street.
It's Americana, and that's one of the. I think that's one of the things that if you want to look for a good idea, when I say Americana, I just mean it's something that in this day and age that's so hectic and so crazy that is easy to get around. And people, I think, have a longing for when things were a little bit slower and less impacted by social media. And so
brings us together.
Rolling cars down a hill in front of Y Middle School, harkening back to the old days, I loved it. So we'll see what we can do.
Mike, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank
you.
you.
He's Mike Dunn from the Greater Salisbury Community, and we're always thrilled to have him here at One-on-One.
Thank you. My pleasure, truly.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One-on-One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.